Hey everyone, this week I'm sharing some point of view bird photography with the Nikon D500 and 300mm Nikkor lens. So I'm doing things a little bit differently this week. Instead of filming in the normal way, I'm instead taking my GoPro and attaching it via a harness to my chest, so you get some POV, point of view footage, kind of how I see it when I'm capturing my images. And I've got a little bit of commentary over the top of the footage just to explain what I'm doing, some of the settings I'm using and what I'm thinking about as I go around. So we'll see how this turns out. It's a bit of an experiment, but let's dive in and see some of the footage. Okay, so I'm just getting the camera set up here, putting the wrist strap on. I prefer wrist straps to neck straps. And I'm just going to rotate the lens hood here. Put that onto the end of the lens. I do like to use lens hoods. They stop any rain getting onto the front element or glare from the sun, and if you accidentally bash your camera you're not going to damage that front element, so that's good. So as you can see, I've got Otis with me. Maybe not the best idea taking a dog when you're doing bird photography, but he needed a walk, so it's okay. It's an area that's quite popular with people frequently walking around, and a lot of the birds are quite tame and used to people and dogs being around. So I haven't really seen much yet. This area here, we've got some marshy, boggy land to the left there. You sometimes see birds on the branches there, but not on this occasion. And we've had a lot of snow recently. You can see just how high the water level is there after the snow's melted. And there's a duck just down there behind the branches. You can see it on the back of the camera there. Unfortunately, I got a branch in front of the duck, so I didn't put that image in the video. It is quite difficult with all these branches to get a clear shot, and can't really get into the water because it's too deep. You can see just down here how deep the water is. Otis is not really a big fan of swimming, but he does like to get his feet wet in the puddles. I've got wellies on, so it's not too bad. Definitely a good idea to come prepared, clothing wise, when you're doing bird photography, because you are often trekking around in conditions that are not great if it's wet or dirty and muddy. So I'm walking really slowly here, as you can see, because I've spotted a robin. I do see this robin quite often in the same area, and it is used to people, so it's quite easy to get a good shot. You see it's just on the branch there in the middle. I've probably got hundreds of shots of this robin. That's the good thing about robins in general. They are quite tame and will let you get a photo of them. Otis just having a bit of a zoomy there, burning off a bit of energy. So this area here that I'm just heading into is probably one of the best areas for getting bird shots. They tend to congregate around here. Often see herons and nuthatches. Didn't see any nuthatches on this occasion, but I'm just approaching slowly down here because on the left there are some blue tits. You can see there are bird feeders hanging in the trees. They just encourage the birds to come to these areas, and you can just see them flying around there in the branches. So I've got a few shots here. I'm using burst mode on the camera. My ISO is fairly high because it's fairly dark at this point. But still get a nice clean shot, not too much noise. The D500 is pretty good at handling noise in general anyway. And now we're just heading down to the edge of the reservoir. So the water level is quite low at the moment. They do drain the reservoir now and again, and that means that there's a heron, you can just see it on the back of the camera there, that's walking about looking for food. But it's quite far away. I did think about using the teleconverter, 1.4 teleconverter that I had with me, but I was also thinking about losing a stop of light. It would mean that I would only have a maximum aperture of 5.6 then, rather than an f4. So I got this shot. It's not bad on screen, it looks okay here, but it is heavily cropped. So if you get any closer in on that, you would notice a lot of noise. I was at ISO 4000, I think, f4, and yeah, it was low light from far away, so did lose quite a lot of detail on that one, but you know, you've got to do what you can. So there wasn't much down here, it's pretty quiet. Coming up to an area here where I've seen kingfishers before. There's a little stone bridge, and when you look over the side, I have seen kingfishers on several occasions around this area. None today on this occasion, unfortunately, but it's always worth having a little look. You see here, when I look over on the right, sometimes you see the kingfisher down there, or sometimes it's over on this side. There's some reeds there on the left. So we've got the waterfalls there and the bridge going over the reservoir. You can see a lot of ducks and things up there. I've seen a mandarin duck. Herons sometimes hang around down here on the grassy area in the middle. I think I'm just taking a picture of a coot there from quite far away, so I didn't use the image. So this is on the way back now. The light's dropping quite low. It's getting to sunset time. So I'm not really going to get many more images now. The ISO is already probably up around 6,400. Anything beyond that is not really any good. Right, day 2 now. This is a few days later. The water level has dropped a bit in general in the walkway areas. However, the reservoir itself, the water level is up, and it is raining a bit. You can see there's some droplets on the camera there, which is not ideal. But we've got ducks and geese around here, so obviously quite easy to just get a shot of these. They don't tend to fly away, used to people being around. It's good just to get into a flow. They're not the most exciting bird in the world, but it just gets you into a flow of capturing images and getting the ball rolling before you find some more interesting stuff. Really like this guy. Such an interesting face. It looks a little bit like a strawberry with the texture there. And when you get close with the 300mm, you can really pick out some detail like that. Thought these ducks were quite funny, just waddling along there in a little gang. I did want to put that image in the video, but it wasn't quite, the depth of field that I had wasn't great, and I didn't have all the ducks in focus, unfortunately, only the middle one. I think the front duck and the back one was slightly out of focus. But here I think I spot some bullfinches. You can hear them tweeting, and quite a few of them. It was just difficult to get a good shot because there were so many branches. So I'm just kind of manoeuvring around, trying to get in between those and get a shot. And I did kind of manage to get one. You see it here, covered up by some of the branches across the face, which is not ideal. But we have got the flower in there as well, which I thought just added to the image a little bit. And it was nice just to see something different. So back over the waterway, you can see the water level's dropped a little bit here. And I think there's a pheasant hanging around. Not here, I think it's on the other side. So you might be able to just see it here on the left, next to my left arm walking around. And I did manage to get this image of it, which I think looks nice and colourful against the green and yellow background there. So I'm continuing down the path here, just at the end of the walkway, and keep your eyes peeled here. You have to be quick. But there's a bird that just flies off in the bottom left hand corner. Did you see it there? You can hear me say
Kingfisher.
Kingfisher. I'm zooming in here and I'm going to slow it down. Keep your eyes peeled, bottom left. You see, it just flies off there. It's only there for a second.
Kingfisher.
And that's how quickly they disappear. They're there one moment, the next they're gone. And I did have a good look for it, but I didn't see it again, unfortunately. And that's how it goes sometimes. But it was nice to see it, and at least I got it on camera, albeit very, very briefly. And I know that it's going to be around in this area again in the future probably, so it's always good just to get that knowledge, and you can go back and then hopefully get a shot of it in future. And then I didn't really see too much else, apart from this long-tailed tit. So it was quite nice just to see that at the end. It was getting really dark, so the ISO is quite high. We're up at 3200 f4, but the good thing about this lens is it does perform really well at its widest aperture, f4. It's still reasonably sharp, particularly in the centre of the frame, where with bird photography that's where your subject is going to be most of the time. And you can see it's getting quite dark again, so that was more or less the end of my trip. I'm back to where I started now and done for the day. So it was really fun and interesting to film with the GoPro instead of the usual way that I do it, but I'm not sure it quite works for bird photography. You really need to be zooming in and getting close up to the birds to capture what they're doing, and the lens on the GoPro is just way too wide, and the birds are just little dots in the frame really, so I'm not sure it quite works. But it would be really good for something like street photography, so I'm definitely going to think about doing that in the future. But I hope you enjoyed the video anyway. If you did, please give me a thumbs up down below. That really helps out the channel. And massive thanks for watching. If you subscribed, that's great, really do appreciate it. But if you are new to the channel and you're not yet subscribed and you'd like to do so, you can just click down there on the big red button or on this picture of me. And that way you'll keep up to date with everything I'm doing each and every week. There's a new video every Sunday morning at 10 AM UK time. So I hope you'll join me next week for the next one. But until then, thanks a lot everyone, and bye for now.